Hello and thanks for joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start with a look at the day's headlines. The US government reveals that Vice President Mike Pence agreed to a secret meeting with the North Koreans in Seoul earlier this month, but 2 hours before the meeting, North Korea bailed. South Korea wins silver in the men's speed skating team pursuit, marking the host country's third silver and ninth medal in total at the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. South Korea moves up to 8th on the medal board. Plus, Lotte Group chairman Shin Dong-bin has given up his representative rights at Japan's Lotte Holdings after he was sentenced to jail in Korea in a sprawling bribery case. So let's start with a meeting that never was. The United States has confirmed that Vice President Mike Pence was set to meet with North Korean officials during his recent visit to South Korea for the opening of the Winter Olympics. That was before the regime pulled out, seemingly upset by the Trump administration's continued hardline stance. Kwon Jang-oh starts us off.
North Korea dangled a meeting in front of the US Vice President Mike Pence before it was cancelled last minute after Pence refused to soften his tone on the regime. That's how the Vice President's Chief of Staff, Nick Ayers, described the meeting that could have been. Ayers, speaking to the Washington Post on Tuesday, revealed that the CIA had received word of North Korea's interest in holding a meeting during the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, and that preparations began following President Trump's approval and ahead of Pence's trip to Asia. The Vice President was given a remit to convey the sincerity of Washington's hardline stance, although not to open any negotiations. But only 2 hours before their scheduled meeting time on the 10th of February, the day after the opening ceremony of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, the North Korean delegation called to cancel. They reportedly expressed dissatisfaction over Pence's announcement a few days prior that new sanctions were being planned on Pyongyang. The North Korean delegation also showed disapproval of a meeting between the Vice President and North Korean defectors, as well as Fred Warmbier, the father of the US student who died last year, shortly after being released from 17 months of detention in the North. Throughout his trip in Asia, Pence repeatedly said he would fight against the North's attempts to, quote, hijack the Olympics with its propaganda. The State Department spokesperson confirmed the report, saying that although the administration regrets the North's failure to seize this opportunity, Washington will not apologize for calling attention to the regime's human rights abuses. The Vice President's office also said Seoul tried to assist by providing the Blue House as a neutral location for the meeting, but the South Korean top office has declined to confirm. It had been hoped that North Korea's involvement in the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics would open the road for dialogue with the US as well as with South Korea. But the revelation of this failed meeting shows that there is still a long way to go before all sides are ready to sit down at the negotiation table. Kwon Jang-oh, Arirang News.
US Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross has suggested it's insulting to pick a trade fight with South Korea while North Korea is building up its nuclear arsenal. In an editorial, the Washington Post reported Ross's proposal says good relations with allies like Seoul and Tokyo are especially crucial to US-led efforts aimed at countering the regime's nuclear missile ambitions. Ross proposed cures are likely to be worse than any disease as tariffs and quotas generally prove counterproductive. The report comes shortly after the Trump administration released a new document on steel imports and other things, calling for new tariffs and quotas to protect US industry. Now, we're going to take a closer look at the unfolding crisis surrounding GM's decision to shut down one of its production lines here in South Korea. A number of experts have suggested that GM's move may be the start of a trend of big companies moving back to the US to stay on the Trump administration's good side. It also has officials here asking what Seoul can do to prevent such a damaging situation happening again in the future. Shin Dong-bin reports.
It's known as the birthplace of the compact Chevy Cruze and the Orlando SUV. GM arrived in Kunsan, a small seaside town on Korea's western coast, more than 20 years ago, bringing with it jobs and a fresh lease of life. But today, General Motors' Kunsan plant is at the brink of closure following the U.S. automaker's bombshell announcement that eye-watering losses were forcing it to turn the lights off. Just how bad is it? In the last 3 years, since 2014, GM Korea posted net losses of $1.8 billion while only operating at 20% of capacity. Explaining its decision, GM pointed to mushrooming manufacturing costs linked to rising wages, aggressive labor union activity, and the depressed local sales. GM's decision to shut its loss-making unit here in Kunsan, which employs some 2,000 workers, could just be the first taste of what's to come. The president of GM International has already given an ominous deadline, saying that the company will make some important decisions on next steps by the end of this month. One of those steps, offering a $2.2 billion debt for equity swap in return for financial support from the Korean government. And close consultations between the government and the automaker are taking place, with officials from the finance ministry also scheduled for a session on Thursday with GM representatives. The emergence of the GM crisis comes at a crunch time for South Korea and the U.S., longtime allies both economically and diplomatically. Trade friction between the two is clear to see, following the Trump administration's imposition of hefty safeguard duties on Korean products and Washington's desire to overhaul the South Korea-U.S. free trade agreement.
This clearly reflects the Trump administration's policy of bringing jobs back to America. I think this case could influence the trade policies of the two countries and even be a model for other global firms doing business in Korea.
The expert says Trump, who is targeting blue-collar workers in the midterms, may highlight the situation as an example of his efforts to bring jobs back to America. Jobs that he says have been lost over years of allowing American firms to up sticks to relocate overseas. Looking to avoid this kind of situation happening again, experts say South Korea must get serious about creating favorable business conditions for foreign firms. And these could include stripping back regulations and loosening the grip of the country's powerful trade unions. However, such moves would likely meet resistance, and even if they're passed, such reforms are unlikely to bear fruit for a number of months. Too late to help the GM workers in Kunsan who wonder what their future holds. Shin Dong-bin, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Mo-gyan from the News Center, here with the latest on the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games. Let's first take a look at the highlights from Wednesday's action. There were no additional golds to add to South Korea's medal tally at the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics on day 12, but the host nation did snag a silver in the men's team pursuit speed skating. After coming from behind to defeat New Zealand in the semifinals, the three-man team of Lee Seung-hoon, Kim Min-seok, and Chung Jae-won faced off against Norway in the final. They lost the final, finishing in a time of 3 minutes, 38.52 seconds. The second-place finish marks the nation's second straight silver in the event. He also became the first Asian speed skater to win a medal in 3 consecutive Winter Games, while 17-year-old Chung became the youngest South Korean speed skater to win an Olympic medal. The South Korean women's curling team continued their amazing run on Wednesday, brushing aside 2 more nations in their march into the semifinals. In the last 2 round-robin sessions, Team Korea easily beat the Olympic athletes from Russia 11-2, with the Russians throwing in the towel after the 6th end. And later in the day, South Korea beat Denmark 9-3. The team won an astonishing 8 out of 9 round-robin games. As the top seed, South Korea will face number 4 seed Japan, the only team to defeat South Korea in the round-robin. The semifinal will start at 8:05 p.m. Korea time on Friday. The winner will play either Great Britain or Sweden in the gold medal match on Sunday. Now let's take a closer look at what's ahead of us on day 13 and on why today is being dubbed Korea's Golden Day. Today is going to be a decisive day for the host nation, as Korea is hoping to hit the medal jackpot tonight. 3 medals in separate events are up for grabs in short track speed skating, where South Korea already clinched 3 gold and 1 bronze as of Thursday. So we begin with the men's 500-meter short track speed skating final, which will kick off at 8:15 p.m. Many Koreans are looking forward to the event as 1,500-meter gold medalist Im Hyo-jun and 1,000-meter bronze medalist Seo-ira are taking part. After that is the women's 1,000-meter short track speed skating finals, where Korea's very own Choi Min-jung, Kim Ha-rang, and Shim Seok-hee, who took the gold in the women's 3,000-meter relay, will compete. If Choi wins a medal tonight, it will be her 3rd of this year's Olympics. Then, looking to follow the footsteps of Korea's gold medal-winning women's relay team, the South Korean men team will compete in the 5,000-meter relay final at 9 p.m. Korea time. South Korea is looking forward to another breathtaking race that could potentially take the host nation closer to its ultimate goal of clinching 8 gold medals. Now let's wrap up by taking a look at the current medal standings. We will have more updates for you throughout the day, so stay tuned. I'll be back again in our next newscast.
So, the first Winter Olympics for the unified Korean women's ice hockey team ended without a win, but the squad made up of players from North and South Korea made history in its own way. And already, head coach Sarah Murray is looking ahead to leading the team in the next Winter Olympics in 2022 in Beijing. Cha Sang-mi with more.
The possibility of the two Koreas fielding a joint women's hockey team was first raised by Olympic officials last June. But the decision to actually do it didn't come until less than 3 weeks before the start of the Pyeongchang Winter Games. The team's 27-day journey has come to a winless end. But looking back at their awkward ice-breaking moments to Wednesday's team lunch of barbecue, the 5 games they played together were a symbolic triumph. In the words of head coach Sarah Murray, the 23 South Koreans and 12 North Koreans played together as a family. At a press conference at Team Korea House, Murray described the experience as remarkable, seeing the players from the two Koreas hug, laugh, and even cry together.
As for our players, I can't say enough how proud we are of what they have done and how truly remarkable they are. This whole situation wouldn't have worked if it weren't for our players and their character.
As a player, I was a bit disconcerted in the very beginning when they said they were forming a joint team. But practicing together, I didn't feel that some of us are from the north and others from the south.
Looking back at the dramatic improvement of the South Korean team over the past 4 years, Marie revealed her ambitions to take the team further.
We're going to win at the Worlds, then we're going to be one step closer to competing in Beijing at the Olympics.
As for the future of the combined team, Marie said it was still unclear, but she hopes to continue the relationship for the development of hockey in both countries. On Tuesday, the team lost 6-1 to Sweden, one of the best teams in the world, but some remarkable moments linger, such as the team's historic first goal scored by Randy Hisu Griffin. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Now staying with our Olympics coverage, from training for their events, pumping iron in the gym to the actual competitions themselves. Athletes from around the world are in Pyeongchang to do their best and hopefully snag some medals. But between the sporting action and their rigorous training programs, they do have some downtime. Our EG1 takes a look at what some of the athletes have been doing when they have a few hours to spare.
The Olympic Festival Park has been offering visitors a lot of entertainment, including food stalls with Korean cuisine. And among the visitors it's attracted is the Brazilian bobsleigh team. The team dropped by the area to learn more about the host country, Korea, while mentally preparing themselves for the challenge ahead.
Yeah, we try to open our minds and don't think about the competition or about the training, just to relax and try to enjoy the place that we are. And then it's really nice because we talk of a lot of Koreans. They ask us about Brazil, and we ask about Korean culture, music, food, then it's really nice to know a little bit about Koreans.
Other athletes, like the bobsledders, also find time between training and competing to take a break and enjoy themselves, normally by going shopping or watching games. Some spend time with their loved ones who've traveled a long way to cheer for them, like Australian cross-country skier Philip Bellingham. Though Bellingham doesn't have as much free time as some of the other athletes, he took the day off to thank his family for their support and shared a moment with them.
So it's a nice place to be able to meet my family and experience the Korean culture and catch up with friends. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing having them here. Like, it wouldn't be the same without having them here trackside, and it means a lot to me that they're there here cheering me on and that they get to see me at this level of competition. It's awesome.
Many athletes also go on tours of the host cities. A popular destination is Gangneung's Gyeongpo Beach. For skier Lee Mi-hyun of Team Korea, this walk by the beach has all the more meaning because she spent most of her life in the U.S.
It's the first time coming to a Korean beach, so I wanted to come see it for myself. I haven't been to the beach in a while, and just being here in Korea's beach is even better because it's the water that surrounds my birth country. You know, it feels good. Yeah.
The Olympics is where athletes show the results of years of hard work, but it's also a chance to make friends and memories for a lifetime. 이지원, 아리랑 뉴스, 강릉.
Now, in other news, Lotte Group Chairman Shin Dong-bin has relinquished his representative rights at Japan's Lotte Holdings after he was sentenced to jail here in Korea in a bribery case. His resignation is expected to add further uncertainty to the conglomerate at a difficult time. Park So-yeon reports.
The chairman of South Korea's Lotte Group has resigned from his co-CEO post of Japan's Lotte Holdings, but will remain on its board as vice chairman and director. The move came after Shin Dong-bin was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison in Korea last week over his role in an influence peddling scandal involving former President Park Geun-hye. He was found guilty of offering 7 billion won, or $6.4 million, in bribes to gain a license to run a duty-free business. At a board of directors meeting in Tokyo on Wednesday, Lotte Holdings decided to accept Shin's offer to step down as co-CEO, leaving Japanese co-CEO Takayuki Tsukuda to head the holding company. Shin will stay on as vice chairman in name only, in efforts to minimize the impact of his extended absence. Some watchers are concerned that Shin's vacancy may allow the Japan-based holding firm to exert more influence over Lotte Korea. For the past 50 years, Lotte Group has been operating under a one Lotte management policy, with both South Korea and Japan's chiefs in charge of overall supervision in an integrated management system. Lotte says Vice Chairman Hwang Gak-gyu will lead in close cooperation with Japan Lotte and actively handle the situation. Lotte Holdings is a top shareholder of Lotte Hotel and Lotte Chemical, which control Lotte Group's various South Korean businesses. Shin's resignation may also reignite a family dispute with his older brother. Shin Dong-ju had earlier said his younger brother should resign his board of director position, saying it's socially unacceptable to manage a business while in prison. Shin Dong-bin's resignation is expected to hamper Lotte's investment plans and ability to seek new business opportunities to stem losses in China, as well as weaken ties between Lotte's businesses in South Korea and Japan. Park So-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, the 2017 Corruption Perception Index is out, with numbers showing the majority of countries are making little to no progress to actually tackle corruption in their various countries. Among the nations making a slight bit of progress is South Korea. It moved up one spot from 52nd to 51st, scoring 54 out of a possible 100. The index, which ranks 180 countries and territories by their perceived levels of public sector corruption according to experts and business people, uses a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 is utterly corrupt and 100 is corruption-free. Topping the list as the least corrupt nation was New Zealand with 89 points. Now for a look at stories making headlines around the world, and we're going to start with the ongoing bloodshed in Syria. The UN Human Rights Office says airstrikes and artillery fire over the past few days has now killed nearly 350 people and injured around 900 others in eastern Ghouta. For more on this and other international news, let's turn to our Noah Adam. So Adam, are we ever expected to see an end to Assad's bombardment?
Well, Mark, there are efforts being made, but it is yet to be seen whether or not they will have any impact. Russia, a key Syrian ally, is calling for an open meeting of the UN Security Council on Thursday to address the situation in eastern Ghouta. The Syrian government insists it's retaliating against what it has described as terrorist attacks on Damascus, but residents there claim the regime is targeting civilians and trying to recapture lost territory. If a meeting is held at the UNSC, then it is likely that many fingers will be pointed at Russia for the civilian deaths. However, the Kremlin has rejected as groundless allegations raised by the US and others that Moscow bears some of the blame. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described the situation in the rebel enclave as hell on earth, urging for an immediate end to fighting to allow humanitarian aid to reach the region. Similar pleas are being made by some world leaders as well as aid organizations. France, Sweden and Kuwait, as well as the International Committee of the Red Cross, are calling for a UN resolution ordering a 30-day ceasefire. The bombardment, which escalated since Sunday, is one of the deadliest in the 7-year Syrian war. The death toll is expected to rise further as many medical facilities have been reduced to rubble, leaving many seriously injured people untreated. More than 100 schoolgirls are feared to have been abducted by members of the Boko Haram militant group after their school in northeastern Nigeria was attacked. It was initially thought that the girls had escaped along with other students and staff members prior to the attack on Monday, but their whereabouts are still unknown, and only 815 out of the 926 students at Government Girls College in Yobe State were in school by Tuesday. The attack came about 4 years after Boko Haram kidnapped more than 270 girls from a school in Chibok, a town in neighboring Borno State. One of the most influential pastors of the 20th century, Billy Graham, has died at the age of 99. The U.S. evangelist died on Wednesday at his home in Montreat, North Carolina. For more than 6 decades, he preached to a dozen presidents as well as hundreds of millions of people around the world with a consistent media presence. He was best known for his fiery sermons and was raised in a Christian farming family in Charlotte.
Good morning. Readings will rise a bit under partly sunny skies before many regions will see snowfall late at night. So the capital will see 1 to 5 centimeters of snowfall starting about 9 p.m. through dawn. But it's going to be more like light flurries than snow, while parts of Gangwon-do province, including Chuncheon, will see heavier snowfall. So expect to see more clouds as the day goes on before snow falls late at night. And afternoon highs in Seoul will get up to 6 degrees Celsius, while Busan will make it to 9 degrees this afternoon. Tonight's band of snow will not do much to ease the dryness in the air, but at least it's not going to bring another round of cold. Warmth is on the way, with highs in the upper single digits for the time being here in the capital. Pyeongchang is waking up to a freezing morning, and the region will also see snowfall late at night, which could linger into early tomorrow dawn. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all the news we have for now. Our next bulletin is coming up at noon Korea time. So until then, goodbye.